Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of Watershed Management. So in this session, we are going to study about introduction to watershed. So we will study about what is watershed, right? And then we will study about different types of watersheds. So in this respect, we will study about what are the components of watershed management. There are different components, so that we are also going to study about in the this management program. Now, there are many significance related to the watershed management. So we will focus on some of the significance of the watershed management. But there are many issues that are faced by the water management program. So that issues we will also discuss under the topic issue faced by the watershed management programs. So let us start the session. So what is watershed? Watershed, also called a drainage basin, a catchment area, right? So suppose an river is flowing like this, right? And there are some like ditches are there, big ditches like this, okay? And the river is flowing, or any tributary of the river is flowing. So what happened at the time of heavy rainfall, right? This river or the tributary is laden with lot of rainwater. So sometime what happened, it is so much water that the water goes to these areas also, and they get filled, right? So these are considered as a watershed, right? A catchment area where the water get and filled. So, and also there are some of the channels that are dried all over the year. But at the time of flood or at the time of heavy rainfall, these channels are having water, and that later lead to some catchment area. Catchment area means an area where the water can get collected. So that is called as watershed. Again, a watershed, also called as a drainage basin, a catchment area, is an area of land that drains or shed water into a specific water body. So these are not actually the water body, but yes, it can also drain out all the water to some of the water bodies like wetlands. There are many wetlands which are connected with the river channels, right? But all the year that river channel is dried, but at the time of rainfall or at the time of flood, these channels are laden with the water, because the river is having a lot of water, and that channel also get a course of water from the heavy rain water, and that channel transport all the water to the near wetlands or any specific water body, right? So that is called as a catchment area. It is an independent drainage unit for the surface water runoff. Actually, what is this? All the rainwater is going to the river or the channel or the tributaries, right? So it is collecting all the runoff. Runoff means the water that is feeding all over the area of the land. It is get collected at a place, right? So that is the surface water. So surface water runoff uh, lead to the watershed area, right? And that water get collected there. So this is very important for the conservation of water. One watershed is separated from another by a natural boundary known as the water divide or the ridge line. So suppose this is a water uh, watershed area that is having some water, and there is another water body, right? Or you can say the watershed. This is the watershed 1, and this is the watershed 2. So what is present in between? This is called as ridge line. Ridge line, right? These are the terms that one should remember. So here you can see this is the forest. So when rain is occurring here, all the water which is coming to this, it goes to this streams or the tributaries. Now here are some urban areas. Here also when the rain is coming, all that rain goes down and follow this river channel or any streams or any tributary. Okay, so all these water goes down to a catchment area, or you can hear the catchment area is in the form of the wetland, right? So in this way the watershed is important. Now there is a requirement of management. If this water body or the wetland or any watershed get blocked or any construction is done over here, then what will happen to this water which is coming from the forest area, from the urban area, from the rural area, from the farmland? What will happen? It will cause a flood. So to avoid flood, there should be proper watershed management. Now there are different types of watershed. So they are classified depending upon the size. So the types of watershed depends upon the size, its drainage, shape, and the land use pattern. Macro watershed, that is above 50,000 hectare. Suppose the size of the watershed is more than 50,000 hectare, then it will be called as macro watershed. 10,000 to 50,000 hectare, then it is called as sub watershed. 1,000 to 10,000 hectare, then it is called as milli watershed. And 100 to 1,000 hectare, micro watershed. And 1 to 100 hectare, then it will be called as mini watershed. So these are the different types of watershed depending upon the size, drainage, shape, and the land use pattern. Now, watershed management. It is a process of implementing the land use practices and water management practices to protect and improve the quality of the water and other natural resources within a watershed. So what we are doing? We are doing two things. First thing, we are having an eye over the land use practices. Whatever the construction has to be done. Okay, so that is called as land use pattern. What are the new areas for you can say urban planning, right? What are the new areas for the agricultural field? What are the new areas for the green belt? Now doing all these construction, are we causing hindrance to the water management practices? Right? So these two things are very, very important. First thing, the land use practices, how you are utilizing your land for the urban basis, for the agricultural land, for the forest area management, for the green belt, and like this many other practices we do for the land use practices, right? And in doing so, whether we are using the catchment area, if we are using the catchment area, then we are not following the water management practices, right? So if we are making a canal, so we should make some watershed area. So when if there is a canal overflood, then water can go to those catchment area, right? Otherwise, in the same way with the river also, like, right, in the river also these problems comes. So there must be some water management practices with the land use practices. Now, the components of the watershed management, these are some of the programs like soil water conservation. Soil and water should be conserved simultaneously. Plantation should be done. For the watershed management, plantation is also necessary, because if the no plant will be there, then water more and more water will be available for the surface runoff, and it will erode all the important nutrients that is present at the top layer of the soil, right? So this is very, very important. This watershed management is clubbed with the plantation as well. Agronomic practices, whatever the practices you are doing for the agriculture, that is also united with the water management program. Livestock management, as you all know that the agriculture, we are also having this livestock management, right? So if we are following the livestock management, so this particular practice, that is the watershed management program, is also having a part of the livestock management. renewable energy, institutional development. All these are under the components of the watershed management program. Okay, can we think about why the institutional development is also clubbed with the component of the watershed management program? Because these are the institutions that are opening nowadays, new institutions. So whether we are opening it in the catchment area, or whether we are opening at the place where the chances of the flood is more, or whether we are opening the new institutional developments to the river channels, which is generally dry over a year, but it get water only at the time of rainwater or at the time of flood. So all these things we should check, and these are checked by some institution, that this watershed management program should not get uh, wave off. So all these programs are clubbed with the watershed management programs. Now, significance of the watershed management. It controls pollution. First thing, that watershed management controls the pollution. How? The runoff from the rainwater or the snow melt can contribute to the significant amount of pollution into the lake or river. So suppose we are using a lot of fertilizer in our agricultural land, and if there is a rain, right, heavy rain, so that fertilizer will get mixed with the rainwater, and it can sweep to our near catchment area, near to the water bodies, near to the wetlands, near to the river, right? So that can pollute the water. Okay. So, and later on it is clubbed with the biological magnification as well. So we are not going to talk about that, but here the most important thing, that runoff. Now this runoff from the rainwater or the snow melt may cause pollution to the lakes and the river. Second thing, the watershed management helps to control the pollution of the water and other natural resources in the watershed. Not only it is this uh, it is not only helping in the control of the pollution of the water, but also other natural resources in the watershed also. So this is the significance, one of the significance of the watershed management. Second, identifies and regulates ecologically hazardous activities. There are many activities that are very dangerous for, if we talk about the ecological point of view. So all these activities that occur within a watershed somehow affects its natural resources and the water quality, right? As we have talked about, that the surface runoff from the agriculture field will have a lot of phosphate and nitrogens available, right? And when it sweeps to the near about the water bodies or the lakes or the rivers, then that phosphate and the nitrogen will be available in the water body, and that will flourish more and more algal blooms, and you can say the aquatic plants also. Now if they grow, then they may cause the some severe problems to the water body and the organism that are living in that water body. They will affect their life, right? So this is very, very important. That is why it is called as, it regulates the ecologically hazardous activities. So now if the water is clean, the surface runoff water is not having any type of pollutant, then it will, that water will be added to the drying up of the area of the water body. There are the two aspects. Either it will contain a lot of phosphorus and the nitrogen, and it will going to pollute the water body, or if the runoff is having not all these pollutant and it is a fresh water, then it will go and get collected to the water body, and it will support to many organisms living in that water body. So all these things are clubbed together. So So that is why our agricultural practices are also clubbed with the watershed management. Now, and in the agriculture practices, we learn that we should not use more and more chemical fertilizer. We should be using farmyard manure or other type of manure that have not an adverse effect later on to the soil or near about the water body. Right. So if we follow all these things, then our this water management program will be successful. Next point, identifies and regulates the ecologically hazardous activities, means some more points regarding this. Watershed management planning comprehensively identifies such activities and makes recommendations to the properly address them so that their adverse impact can be reduced. So now this watershed management planning is continuously working on this. So if they identify any type of activities that is causing a severe damage to the any of the organism or the ecology of any water body or any natural resources, then they will come with some recommendation that this thing should be done or this thing should not be done. So that recommendation will going to be help and establishing a well developed ecological system while following the watershed management planning. Next point, enhances the partnership among the stakeholders. Now, what are the stakeholders? We are all the stakeholders. We get a lot of benefits from our ecosystem, right? So we are the stakeholders. So the watershed management planning results in enhanced partnership among all the stakeholders in the watershed, which is essential for the successful management of the land and water resources. So the people who are living all along these watershed, they are the stakeholders, because in these watershed, what they are taking off, they are taking off fishes, they are using that water for the agriculture practices. Sometimes they are also using water for the drinking purposes, right? So these are called as the stakeholders. Now, can we plan our watershed management planning without these stakeholders? I think no, we cannot think, because they are also the part of this watershed management planning. So whatever the planning we do, we must involve these stakeholders to have a proper management system. Enhances partnership among the stakeholders. So it is also an efficient way to prioritize the implementation of watershed management plans in time when the resources may be limited. Yes, when the resources are limited, right? Then what is priority? If the stakeholders are not aware that using all the water from this water body, right, it could makes that watershed or the water body dry at a time, and all the organisms that are dependent on that will die, and the ecosystem of that particular lake will collapse, right? So that is why it is very important to involve stakeholders in the watershed management planning. Inclusive growth. The inclusive growth refers to the economic growth that is distributed fairly across the society and create opportunities for all. So this inclusive growth means whatever the growth with the help of the watershed management planning, right? It is distributed fairly across the society and creates opportunity for all, means the water, by the water planning we can enhance our growth, economic growth, and that growth should be distributed among the all the society and creates people of the society and creates opportunity for all. So watershed management is key for sustainable and inclusive growth. Very, very important point, this watershed management. When we are following the watershed management, we are actually following the sustainable management. So sustainable management is a very broad term, whereas the watershed management is a part of it. So if you are following the sustainable management, right, watershed management, then you are obviously a part of the sustainable management. And that is actually the inclusive growth. When you are following anything sustainably, then you are doing an inclusive growth, right? For instance, in a drought-prone, rain-fed areas, watershed management has shown the potential of doubling the agricultural productivity and assigning the rural families through increased water availability and diversifying the cropping and the farming system, resulting in the diversified source of the income. So this is the crux of this particular lecture. For instance, there is a drought-prone, rain-fed area, an area which is having a lot of drought, no rain is there. Now, we are following the watershed management. Suppose this particular area is a drought-prone. This is the drought-prone, and here is a this is the one of the watershed area, but it is dried now. Now here, from here, one water channel is coming, right, and it is joining to this water body, watershed, and another it is going to some other place. Now at the time of this rain, this water channel will have lot of water, and this water can lead to this watershed area. Now this drought prone area, they can have this water at the time of rain. Now how to use this rainwater, how to use this for the agricultural productivity, how to use this water for their families, right? So this is very, very important. And suppose if this is blocked by any construction, by any road passing by this, then what will happen? That is why so many things are clubbed together for the watershed management. We are also included the urban planning. For in the urban planning, this road construction is also there. So if any road has been constructed thinking that this is a rural area, and if the road will pass by, then all the people will have this facility of this transportation. But what will happen to this water availability? So everything should be checked before doing any type of construction or planning, right? So if they have a water at this time and they use this water judicially all over the year, then this water can lead to their agriculture practices also, and that can be used for their rural families as well. Now, there are some issues, right? Issues faced by the watershed management programs. Though they follow all the speciality or the points that are made for the watershed management program, but there are some issues. What are those issues? Let us discuss that. In that respect, the project related issues. This is the first thing. Now, in the project related issues, factors such as outdated approaches, poor project design, inadequate and unsustained financial resources, very short time frames for the project intervention, and lack of adequate understanding of the linkage between the upland lowland areas have contributed to underachievement of the watershed management program. Okay, now if the people who are practicing the watershed management program are not having the knowledge of upland and lowland, how they can going to use this watershed management program? Hmm? Poor knowledge or the poor project design of this watershed management program is going to fail this project, and there will be a lot of issue, right? So the proper knowledge of the watershed management program is very, very necessary. So the authority which are taking this as a command for the watershed management program should have time to time, you can say, you can they can have a setup of you can say a seminar, right? Or an educate they should educate them so that they can understand the financial resources, they can understand the time framework, they can understand the project interventions, right? All these things understanding is very very important. And if the people who are taking care of the watershed management program are not having the knowledge of this, that is going to be a failure of this project. Okay. Next point is weak institutional base. Now, the near collapse of the watershed based institutions once these programs are completed has been observed, as the input they receive are often inadequate to sustain the institutional base. This is also very, very important. If the institutional base is not as much clear about the program, then how they are going to give the inputs, right? And receive the output. So the output will not be educate inform. So the institutional base is very very important. Similarly, the self-help groups are not properly integrated into the watershed program. So many times there are many NGOs and the other people who are also working for the watershed management are not properly, you can say, made their part of their program. These people are not actually making a healthy bonding with them, or they are not being a part of this watershed management program, and that is why this also lead to the failure of the project. The nature of the institutional base influences the sustainability of the natural resources, ability of the communities to diversify and access support from the different programs. So this is very, very important to what type of institutional base influencing the sustainability. To understand sustainability of the natural resources, this is a very important point, and this is the one of the weak point of the institutional base. Programs non-inclusive of the reserved forest land. Now the inclusion of the reserve forest land into the watershed development plan and creation of the entitlements over the forest produce is not yet a part of the watershed development program. Now here you can understand the reserve for forest land, whatever the forest management you are doing, they are not the part of the watershed development program. So this should be clubbed together. Absence of agreement between the forest department and the rural development department on the operational aspect is the critical bottleneck. So there are sometimes there is not an agreement. These two departments are not agreed for some of the issues, like the forest department and the rural development department, right? So these authorities should unite together and work for the watershed management program. Programs non-inclusive of the reserve forest land. So the inclusion of the reserve forest land into the watershed development plans, creation of the entitlements over the forest produce is not yet a part of the watershed. This we have already discussed. Okay. Build local partnership. Development of the local partnership lead the greater awareness and support from the general public. Yes, if you are following such type of management program, then the local people should be the part of this, right? They are more aware about the problems that they are facing. So water is one of the very very important resource for the people or the local people. So local partnership with these people will lead to the success of this watershed management program. So we can make them as a part of this program. And aware individuals often become more involved in the decision making, protection, and the restoration effort. But we should also be aware that some of the time, some people are taking a lot of decision in this management program. So we should protect and think about why they are taking so much decision. And also, these decisions should not be taken by one individual. It should come from the all the members that are part of it. Protection and the restoration efforts should also be done in the same way. Such involvement builds a sense of community, help reduce conflicts, and increase the commitment to the action necessary to meet the environmental goals. So all these peoples, if they are unite together, then there will be obviously less conflicts between them. And all these communities and their actions necessary, that is to meet the environmental goals. So this is all about this session. Thank you very much.